What is the key to making a flourishing household? I want to introduce a new term to answer this question: household prudence. What do I mean by household prudence? It's a virtue. It's the virtue of crafting a flourishing household. And what it is, it's having a plan and knowing how to execute that plan. For a household is a rich, complex, magnificent thing. And its flourishing is never going to happen by accident. It happens when someone or someones know what they're after and know how to craft it and are constantly developing their ability and growing in insight and ability to deliberate about how to make this great thing real. It's architecting. It's understanding the big picture and thinking of the little things in view of the big picture. Isn't this what parents are doing all the time? Think of all the big questions that come up. When should we allow our teenager to have a car or to get a phone? How are we going to handle education in the home? What furniture are we going to have? Where are we going to live? What's going to go on in the backyard? Whom are we going to invite over? Countless significant questions, bigger and little ones, all need to be answered in terms of a principled, rational approach to crafting a good life together that's always about people. Household prudence, a virtue of crafting a flourishing household, of weaving together the fabric of life in all of its various aspects, in view of what's most important, in view of the relationships, in view of the people. There's so much more we're going to need to study to try to unfold this great and ancient notion of this oh so important and so much richer than we've realized virtue called household prudence. Right now, I just want to give 3 reasons why it's so important that we do so. Our marriage needs and deserves this virtue. Our home needs and deserves this virtue. And our children need and deserve it. Why our marriage? Because in growing in this virtue and cultivating this virtue and trying to be able to exercise this virtue together, this is what makes a marriage. This is where we are brought together in a common project. This is where also we especially discover our difference and the reason for our difference, the complementarity that comes out that we discover as we complement one another in our approaches, in discerning and deliberating about this plan and how to enact it. This especially forges that oh so deep and powerful relationship that is a marriage. And then our home itself. Home. Home needs more intentional attention than we give it, doesn't it? Think of how much energy and thought goes into business and the various other projects of our life. But frankly, home is more important than those other projects. But we tend to more do it by the seat of the pants rather than taking an approach of what are our principles? What's our plan? We need to cultivate a virtue of thinking clearly. Doesn't mean we're going to be perfect every time, but being able to address everything in a holistic and intentional way. This will make all the difference in the world for making our home be what it can and should be. And then our children. Isn't this also something where we tend so often just to bump along and figure out things as they come? And to some extent, That's going to be how it has to be. We're not going to be able to figure it out everything beforehand. But we surely could be much more intentional. What does it take to raise children well? This astounding virtue is precisely the virtue of thinking well in a principled way about every aspect of what our children need. Household prudence. There's so many urgent reasons for us to develop it. Such a beautiful thing. We're made for this. Our own nature is calling for this. And indeed, it makes me think of Aristotle's great insight about all virtues. To become virtuous is always to become more human, to become more happy. Household prudence is such an amazing instance of being what our nature is calling us to be.